There's this brutal truth about building something truly massive. Before you can reach for the stars, before you can command a valuation that rivals entire countries, you have to survive the fire. And for SpaceX, the fire, well, it was literally real.
So, you might have heard the whispers on Wall Street. These rumors of a financial event so huge it could redefine the market. We're talking about a potential 2026 IPO for SpaceX, with a target valuation of a staggering $1.5 trillion. But how on earth do you justify a number that big? Today, we're going to tear this apart. We're going to deconstruct the story, the tech, and the numbers behind what might be the most audacious bet in modern business history.
Look, to even begin to wrap our heads around a trillion-dollar future, we've got to go back, way back, to the beginning, to a time when SpaceX wasn't an empire at all. It was a desperate gamble that was constantly on the verge of total collapse. This was their survival era.
Here's the thing you gotta understand about SpaceX. From day one, it was never really about rockets. The goal wasn't just to launch a few satellites. The goal, and they said it right out loud, was to make humanity a multi-planetary species. Everything else, every single launch, every government contract, was just a way to fund that ultimate mission.
But man, that grand vision, it almost died right there on the launch pad. The first 3 flights of their Falcon 1 rocket were just catastrophic failures. By the middle of 2008, the company was bleeding cash, and the global financial crisis meant no one was lending money. They had just enough cash left for one more launch. I mean, can you imagine? If that 4th flight failed, SpaceX was done, finished. And then, in September 2008, with everything on the line, Falcon 1 finally made it to orbit.
And what happened next? Well, that's what unlocked everything. That one single successful flight just a few months later was enough to convince NASA that the tech was for real. They awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to resupply the International Space Station. And let me tell you, that contract wasn't just some cash infusion, it literally saved the company from disappearing. Okay, so they were rescued from the brink. Now SpaceX enters its next phase. It wasn't about just surviving anymore. It was about disruption. It was about completely rewriting the rulebook of aerospace economics.
This right here, this is the moment that changed absolutely everything. For 60 years, the industry built these magnificent rockets and then just threw them away in the ocean after one use. Think about how insane that is. Then, in December 2015, SpaceX does the impossible. They launch a rocket to orbit and then land the first stage back on solid ground. Reusability went from being pure science fiction to actual reality. Just like that.
And this number right here, 31, well, that just shows you the new reality we're living in. That's the number of times a single booster has flown to space and back. I mean, this isn't just recycling. This is basically achieving airline-style operations, but with rockets. And that, right there, is the bedrock of their market dominance.
So, okay, they've basically conquered the launch market. What's next? Well, SpaceX does what SpaceX does. They make another massive bet-the-company move, using their cheap and reliable rockets to become something totally new, a global utility company.
And the result? This number, 8 million. That's how many active subscribers Starlink had in late 2025, and that figure doubled in just 1 year. This isn't some niche product for people living off-grid anymore. No way. This is a full-blown mass-market utility, and it's churning out billions in recurring revenue.
But of course, they aren't stopping with rural internet. Their next big play is direct-to-cell. Just think about it for a second. Your regular old smartphone getting a signal absolutely anywhere on the planet. No more dead zones, ever. By turning their satellites into basically cell towers in space, they're not just nipping at the heels of internet providers, they're aiming straight for the multi-trillion-dollar global telecom market.
All right, so we've looked at the tech, we've seen the strategy. But what does this dominance actually look like when you crunch the numbers? Honestly, the data is just, it's kind of hard to believe.
So get this, in 2025, SpaceX alone was responsible for more than half of all successful orbital launches on the entire planet. Let me say that again. One company outlaunched China, Russia, Europe, India, and Japan combined.
But you know what? Even that incredible chart doesn't paint the full picture. The metric that really matters is mass to orbit. How much stuff you're actually lifting into space. And on this front, their dominance is just, it's staggering. In the last quarter of 2024, SpaceX launched over 5 times more mass than every other country and company on Earth combined. They don't just participate in the market, they basically are the highway to orbit.
Okay, so all of this whole incredible story, the tech, the market dominance, it's all building up to one massive trillion-dollar question that has Wall Street completely obsessed.
Yeah, this is the question that underpins this whole conversation. Can a company that was literally born from fire and near failure really be worth that much?
And that rumor just won't go away. A 2026 IPO, targeting that insane $1.5 trillion number. If that happens, it would be one of the biggest, most hyped up public offerings in history.
But to really get how bonkers that number is, you have to see it in context. Just look at the price-to-sales ratio on this chart. An old-school aerospace giant like Lockheed Martin, it trades at less than 2 times its sales. What about a red-hot AI darling like NVIDIA? Okay, around 23 times sales. Now look at SpaceX's target, 93 times its revenue. This isn't just ambitious, it's a valuation that seems to be playing in a totally different universe from traditional metrics.
So, how in the world do you justify that? Well, the bull case goes something like this. SpaceX isn't a hardware company. It's a monopoly gatekeeper to low Earth orbit, with a Starlink business that could print cash with software-like margins, and maybe even a wild card in using its satellites for AI. The bear case? It's pretty simple. That valuation is pricing in decades of perfect execution. The whole thing, the entire thesis, hinges on their next-gen rocket, Starship, actually, working. And, of course, regulators could always step in. So when you boil it all down, the final verdict from these deep dive financial reports? It's not really about today's profits or losses. The bet on SpaceX is really a bet on the entire future of an off-world economy. This is the roadmap. This is what has to happen, step by step, for that valuation to even begin to make sense. Step 1, Starship. It has to work. And not just work, it has to achieve full, rapid reusability. That then lets them launch a whole new generation of Starlink satellites. Those satellites can then be used to create space-based AI data centers, capturing a piece of the biggest market on Earth. It's a whole chain of incredibly ambitious, super high-risk steps where each one has to succeed for the next one to happen.
And really, that's the heart of it all, the core thesis. The argument is that you can't value SpaceX like a normal aerospace company. You have to value it as the essential, maybe even monopolistic, infrastructure for a brand new economy. An economy built in low Earth orbit and eventually beyond.
So it all leaves you with one final massive question to chew on. We know the first industrial revolution was built on railroads. We know the digital revolution was built on fiber optic cables. The real question now is, who's building the railroads for this next great economic revolution? And what is something like that truly worth?